Meet Herbert West. He's a brilliant scientist with very unconventional views on life and death, particularly death. He's created a powerful reagent that can reanimate the freshly dead, but with disastrous results. His ultimate goal is to perfect the reanimation process and cure death itself. But his work gets wildly out of control when he resorts to murder in the 1985 horror flick Re-Animator. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre,
Caleb Leger.
and this is Filmgazm. Welcome to the Filmgazm podcast. Our topic today is Stuart Gordon's body horror masterwork Re-Animator, the film that brought Jeffrey Combs into horror. So, what's your history with Re-Animator? I know this is a popular one among the team.
Yeah, it's one I always heard about growing up, but like a lot of like films, if I wasn't able for the longest time to get it through Netflix in the mail before I have had the money to finally be able to like rent occasionally on Prime, something I really want to watch. And again, remember folks, I'm from a time when like I saw the beginning of the streaming explosion. So
Yeah,
it
those are the
was
days.
yeah, if it wasn't on Netflix DVD, you're kind of shit out of luck. You just had to hope you found it somewhere. Um So for a long time, I'd heard about it, I always wanted to watch it. I was aware of like, Robert Crampton and Jeffrey Combs and all that stuff with it. And it wasn't until I met Josh actually that I finally had to watch it for the first time because it's a favorite of his. And he was like, "You haven't seen it? Oh, I'll show you." And you know how he is if you don't watch something he loves. Um, so I watched it nonetheless, and it was one of my more favorite things he's shown me. Um, and I honestly just quickly fell in love. This to me is one of the best fucking like splatter horror comedies to kind of come out. Like it's just a fun movie, and it's the definition when people like kind of sometimes get on my nerves when they're like, "Oh, horror needs to be scary, and if it's not scary, it sucks." I'm like, horror can also be fun, and this is like a to me the defining definition of like horror working as a fun genre at times. If you the dialogue with the jokes they do and the way they do the gore, and it's just like this is a just a fun. If I just need to have a good time and I don't want to watch like a grief metaphor, looking at you, recent trend of fucking horror films, I'll throw on something like Re-Animator for just a good time.
Yeah, it's outrageous. You can't play this shit straight because that'd be way too much. You got to have some tongue in cheek in there when you have, a, a severed head trying to, eat a girl out. Like that's not serious. That's like holy shit. That's turning to your friend and being like, "What the fuck?" And that's what this movie did. Uh, I first found out about Re-Animator when I watched Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments Countdown when I was a kid, and that was the scene that they chose. And everyone talking about the movie was like, reminiscing about something amazing. Peter Jackson was like, "Oh, that was cool." Uh, the screenwriter of the movie, what's his name? Uh,
Dennis
Dennis
Paoli,
Powell. Yeah,
Paoli.
he was there, and he said something I really liked. He said something along the lines of, "My job as a screenwriter, especially in horror, is to show the audience something they've never seen before, and I think this time we did." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you did, Dennis." Uh,
Yeah, yeah, he
I
did.
I finally watched it for myself a couple years ago. It was streaming on Shudder, and I think it was Josh also. I think I asked him for recommendations, and he was like, "You should check out Re-Animator if you haven't seen it." So I think I got it. I think he got me to watch it too, and I was like, "This is pretty fucked up, but I like it."
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just it's a movie a lot of people like they don't hate it. There's a few horror films that people just despise because reasons. This isn't one of them. I thought it was, but no.
No, it's surprising, both in the horror community and just even like some non-horror fans like, "Oh, that's a fun movie." I'm like it's considered a cult movie now, but I'm like, I would argue that this is a case where I'd say this is a straight up horror classic. I don't think it's cult at all as far as I'm concerned. Like this to me is one of the heavy hitters.
Yeah, I
My
purchased. I think we both purchased the Arrow edition Blu-ray. Arrow is kind of like Criterion for more culty horror weird movies, and we both have that version. So that's like, that's pretty high praise.
Oh yeah, and hey, you know what? If they still had their they don't have Brighter Re-Animator, at least US. You can check their UK site. Um, I'd get that too because Bride. Well, I know we'll talk about the sequels. But Bride's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. There's one good sequel to Re-Animator.
You felt the same that I did about Beyond.
Oh dear God, yeah, Sci-Fi Channel, fuck you forever. We'll talk about that in a bit.
I didn't get to see your review on Letterboxd. I'm like, he should see mine. He'll know how I feel.
Night Swim was a half a star better.
Okay, I think we're on the same page, the exact same page.
Okay. So my discussion question to start things out here. I mean, the immediate answer is like, yeah, no shit. But I'm kind of curious as to where this conversation will go.
Oh boy,
Do you consider Herbert West to be the villain of this film?
to a point. I think for the first half, yeah, because going that route of playing with things you shouldn't play with. Again, it's where the HP Lovecraft this kind comes in, playing with things you're not supposed to, unleashing that cosmic side of it, and tampering with things better left alone. I think he becomes the good guy once Hill kind of takes center stage, and then it becomes a matter of like, you know what, you're really still not a good guy, but you at least see that we need to stop this guy because he's a fucking psychopath. So yes and no. I think for an extent, a little bit, yeah. I won't even say villain. I think he's so obsessed with his work, he doesn't see reason when he needs to at times. He doesn't know when to stop. I think that's his biggest thing. So I don't know if I necessarily villain, but he doesn't see reason. He doesn't know when to stop. Because yeah, like so when Hill comes into view, he does say, "Oh shit, this is bad. We do need to stop this." He has that moment of like, "Oh, that's bad. That's real bad."
Yeah. But also, it's never about, Hill is hurting people. We have to stop him. It's that son of a bitch stole my work. He needs to die.
Yeah.
Uh, I have mixed feelings about Herbert West. I think we had a question like this not too long ago. I don't remember who I was recording with, but we talked about scientific ethics. It might have been you about like, when faced with a discovery like this, do you like can you just walk away from it? Like, don't you have to try to figure it out as a scientist? And West has tapped into the possible like, resurrection of the dead, and he's gonna just ignore that and do something else. No, he's got to figure this out. All three movies are him trying to figure this out and make it work. Because he is really good at fucking it up. He does that every time.
Oh, he's solid at that.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Nobody brings back really fucked up, twisted, mindless zombies like Herbert West. The trick
It's a
is
skill.
get one that's just a little stable. And I think that, he'll stop when he does that. Like when he figures it out for good. And he doesn't care who he hurts along the way. He's definitely a sociopath. He doesn't give a shit who gets hurt in the pursuit of his work. And in that point, I think he is a villain. But Hill's trying to rape a woman and take over the world, so that makes him worse.
It makes him way worse. Yeah, it's tough because like no, you're right. Like why it would be hard to walk away from that when you know like oh shit, I can do something like this.
Well, that's pretty much what we see Dan do. He sees the potential in this. He can't walk away because by the time Bride comes around, I'm like, why are you still with this guy? But it's because the work is too important. The implications of what this can mean if they get it right.
Yeah. So it gets tough, and it's at that point what are your moral quandaries when it comes to things like this, and how far are you willing to go? Like I said, it's one thing if maybe he went and got fresh dead bodies from the morgue and tried it, but as we kind of see, he goes through some unscrupulous methods to try to prove his theory right or perfect it.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing we learned in Pet Cemetery. Body without soul is not life. And West learns that lesson more than a few times.
One a few times and keeps on trucking.
keeps on, that's what's the definition of insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Herbert Rest is insane. Which again, Lovecraft. Um,
yeah.
I actually just saw a question on the spot. See, look at that. You thought I came unprepared, but fuck you, sir.
Well, you
Now,
you straight up told me you came unprepared, but okay, go on.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was neither here nor there. Heresy, okay? I will start being like Brendan Fraser and Killers of the Flower Moon and just make a spectacle of this to no one but myself in my apartment right now.
Oh, you've been doing that for 4 or 5 years.
Go fuck yourself. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this movie is a horror comedy, right? Two genres that have been very successful separately, but admittedly, when they combined, have 9 times out of 10 proven to not do so well at the box office. Not every time we have our hitters, so I'm not gonna say every single time, but I like every single Renfield this year or last year. I keep forgetting it's 2024. Why do you think that audiences are so resistant still to this day? At least mainstream casual audiences. Horror fans are a lot more open to this. Mainstream casual audiences are so resistant to when horror and comedy merges together.
Well, I think that mainstream audiences, and I'm just going by people that I know personally, it's my test group, if you will. Uh, most of the people I know not into horror. They're too scared. They don't want to see that. Especially they don't want to see it on the big screen. So just because it's a comedy doesn't mean you're going to get those people. You're definitely going to attract people like us who love that shit and eat it up. But I think that, horror is one of the few genres where people are literally too afraid to even give it a shot. And that's a large part of the population. Uh, so I think just fear holds people back. And the people who you were talking about people who also just see those two genres mixing as like an abomination, like they're fucking, you know, the movie clan or some shit. And they, yeah, they just don't, horror can't be horror can't be scary if it's funny, and comedy can't be funny if it's scary. Like, no, I think, we should be mixing genres left and right to try to create new shit. I think, I'm all for that. Uh, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people have their heads firmly up their asses or stuck in the past and just won't let films progress. But
Yeah.
I think
I'm
horror comedies, especially, always find an audience. I think pretty much every horror comedy ever made has become a cult hit in some capacity, if they weren't already a big success.
Yeah, if they're not a hit at the box office, they usually become cult classics along the way. Once the rest of the population catches up with horror fans, goes, "Oh, we see why you guys like that one." We're like, "Yeah, we were already there." Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna name the person we're referencing for the second half because I have work to still deal with. I'll put it like that. But yeah, I can at least understand the first one if people are like, I'm not into horror films, they scare me or they're not my thing. That one I can get because I'm like, look, at the end of the day, like at least you're being consistent and I respect that. You're like, hey, I get it. I know it's a horror comedy, but this isn't really my genre anyway. Or like you said, I'm scared by it. Even with the comedy, I don't want to take the risk. Okay, you know what? You're being consistent. I can't really argue with that one. My beef or the is the second one where people say it has to be separate. It can't be, they can't merge. They have to be two different things. I'm like, you to me, again, this is no offense to the person that brought this up when I had this conversation outside of the podcast. Um, to me, you're showing your 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 restriction, the limits you're placing on film, and kind of your own, to an extent, stupidity, if you will. Not to be too harsh here,
No
but
offense, but you're stupid. That's basically what
because
you just said.
pretty much because you're saying because you obviously you're showing right there you really don't know like your film history and how film even works, and the fact that the reason horror and comedy is probably more than any other genres can merge the way they do is because they're actually inherently the same thing. And that's what kills me. I'm like, people don't understand that. Like, oh no, they need to be different. No, they're actually inherently the same thing. It's why you see like horror directors like Jordan, or sorry, horror directors like Jordan Peele. He started out in comedy with Key and Peele and other sketch shows he was on, and now look at him. Because the only different, they're both working for essentially building up suspense. Except with a comedy, it's building up to the punchline to make you laugh. It's all about timing to make you laugh. Horror, the timing is to make you scared. It's to give you that jolt of like a jump scare or genuine just like, oh shit, fear. That to me, because of that, taking something that now separately is already hard enough to do, right? Try to make people laugh, try to make people scared. Now you're saying, let's do it together. Let's build up a way we can scare you, but also we're going to make you fucking laugh in one instant. And for me, knowing that, I honestly kind of pity people that want to place it in that box because you're denying yourself the genius that is someone that can pull off a horror comedy that way, that can say, I'm going to scare you and I'm going to make you laugh all in the same movie.
I agree. Just for kicks, I went on a Wikipedia and searched horror comedy because I wanted to see what film would represent that term on Wikipedia. Can you guess what it is? I don't think you can.
Shaun of the Dead.
No, but good guess. 1948, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Oh, that's a good one. Technically, I think one of the early pioneers of it.
Yep. Huge, huge hit for Universal. $792,000 budget, $3.2 million box office, and that's in 1948. That, adjusted, that's fucking huge. That was the movie that kind of showed studios that mixing horror and comedy, especially with big name stars like Abbott and Costello and Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Jr., combining those two audiences can bring nothing but profit and success and fun and memorable times. And I think they've stayed with that. You know, the right people are always doing cool, innovative things in the film industry. The wrong people are doing their own shit. They're the ones making, Ben-Hur for the 10th time on the Universal backlot. But these guys are like, let's try this. And the let's try this crowd are the ones who keep making the movies we remember. So
Hmm?
I say, keep it going, do what you want. The right people are gonna keep doing their thing.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to continue living in a box and not accept that these two genres can intermingle as much as they want, then it's your loss as far as I'm concerned. Because if you don't watch a straight up horror film and realize that there are like comedy elements even in a horror movie, at times even a straight up one, I don't know what to tell you now at this point. Like there's been plenty of just straight up horror films I've watched that have like comedic elements or really dark humor. That I'm like, am I the only one laughing at this right now?
When I went and saw a double feature last September of Saw and Saw 2 at the Draft House, which was so much fun. Uh People were laughing the whole time. Like the whole crowd was randomly cackling at like, people getting ripped open and shit. And I've seen both those movies many times. I love them. But I was shocked. I'm like looking around like, what? What's wrong with these people? Because I didn't find it funny, but I love that they did.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a movie I would have seen people would laugh at, but hey, they found humor in it, and it kind of works because Saw X, again, hey, that's a straight up horror film, but it had dark humor sprinkled throughout it. Like when he says, like, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I have hobbies. I help people." That was meant as a joke for the crowd to be like, "Oh, haha, we get it because we've seen the herd 9 fucking films."
I was laughing when John saw the orderly steal the watch and imagine that whole elaborate trap like sucking his eyes out, and then it goes back to that moment and he connects eyes to the orderly and he's like, "Come on, put it back." With his
Yeah,
eyes, and the orderly's like, "Okay." And puts it
yeah,
back. Like that made me laugh. Like you don't know what you just saved yourself from, guy.
yeah. A ward of hurt and potentially no more eyeballs.
Yeah. So yeah, horror comedy rocks. I love it's one of my favorite subgenres. Some of my favorite movies of all time are horror comedies.
Yeah,
Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland, Army of Darkness, Tucker and Dale
uh,
versus Evil. Like those are fun fucking movies.
yeah. Kevin was, and also like
Yep.
I Kevin Woods, yeah, is one. And also what I like about them is that like when it comes to having someone that may not be that into horror, they're like interested in dipping their toes in it. Those are the kind of films I'll go to because I'm like, hey, look, this is something that kind of gets you into it because you're going to get scared a little bit, but you're also going to laugh. You're going to have a good time with this film. You know what I mean? Like I would never take someone that's trying to dip their toes into horror and be like, all right, so here's some Eli Roth, here's some Rob Zombie, here's fucking Serbian film. Here's this like I'm not going like here's the sadness. Buckle up, buckaroo, let's go. Like Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, that's a couple years into the friendship and a firm understanding of each other's boundaries before you start going into those movies.
Yeah, exactly. And notice how long I've known you and what movie have I still that I just mentioned that I still have even said I will not make you watch.
Yeah, that's no. There's entertainment and then there's just being sick.
Yeah, no, I've sat through that film. Never again. Um,
Well, that was a good question. I like that. And right like complete like pulled that right out of your ass at the 11th hour. Love it. Well done.
it's totally planned and ran down on my hand.
Ah, okay. Let's talk about Re-Animator. So this movie began life as the short story Herbert West Re-Animator by H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft wrote the story as a serial novelette. It was first published in 1922 in the amateur magazine Homebrew, which was published by his friend George Hotain. Lovecraft openly admitted he wrote the story to make a quick buck, had no real connection to it, got paid $5 a segment. It's about 6 segments, made about $30 in 1922 money. Probably bought another racist cat or something. And this story is actually one of the first depictions of zombies as reanimated corpses with monstrous tendencies. And yeah, look up what H.P. Lovecraft's cat was named. You'll know what I'm talking about. Uh,
Yeah, for anyone that comes at us that doesn't know, look, H.P. Lovecraft is, kind of like one of those horror classic authors that, is still being, used as, a canvas for stuff today. Stuff is still getting adapted today. I mean, Nicolas Cage did Color Out of Space a couple years ago, for Christ's sakes. Um, which has his own fucking controversy because of who directed it now. Um,
Can you imagine like you got diddling over here, you got racism over here, and trapped in the middle is this pretty good movie.
yeah, I know. I'm like, it's God damn it, this is a good movie too. Um, but the thing with H.P. Lovecraft that he was because he's the thing that gave us things like Cthulhu and the Cosmic Core. He's like kind of like the grandfather for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
Um, look, admittedly, and I'm gonna say because I know a lot of people like to bring all this up when they mention H.P. Lovecraft, as if you didn't just mention the year this shit was written, 1922. He was famously racist, I believe xenophobic, I believe sexist. Like every ism you could think of was H.P. Lovecraft.
but
Does that
so was pretty much everybody. That was 1922.
exactly? Again, look at the year. I'm not condoning H.P. Lovecraft's many isms he was, but I'm not going to take away the fact that he is an acclaimed, you know, has legacy type of place in the horror like genre. Like he did a lot for it in the written word. I would love to get a collection of his works from one day. Um, I just need the shelf space and the time.
I've been stockpiling specifically for the podcast. I've got like collections that have like From Beyond and Color Out of Space, like stuff I know we're gonna need down the road when we do those movies. So I've been preparing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know Barnes and Nobles does some pretty solid ones with real nice hardcovers I keep meaning to pick up. But yeah, that
Ironically, I find a lot of his stuff at Goodwill.
God damn it.
So, that's just my gain right there.
It's people finding out that he's racist and they went, not for me.
Oh,
But
I find so many like turn of the century classics at Goodwill that I'm pretty sure were dropped there for that reason.
yeah, probably. So, like I say with a lot of things, look, not condoning it, but just be fucking like aware of the time this shit was ran, and it wasn't just him. He's just a well-known figure that had, if you think about it, a legacy enough to still be talked about in to this day here in
Yeah.
2024.
What do we always say on this show? We have to separate the work from the people who made it. And that is no different with H.P. Lovecraft. He is a racist piece of shit human being. But he wrote some of the most groundbreaking, revolutionary stories in horror history that without, we never would have had so much, especially from John Carpenter. Just want to, his whole
Mhm.
Apocalypse trilogy doesn't happen without Lovecraft.
Yeah, there's plenty of like horror directors and other writers stuff working today that have cited him as an influence.
Yeah. And Reanimator was the first story of his I've ever read. And I actually really liked it. it's a pretty good story. It's not long. It's like 10, 15 pages. Definitely serialized. Every single new serial, he has to recap the previous one. So I get to hear about the guy who was a friend of Herbert West, the scientist you may have known. He says that like 6 times.
God damn
Uh,
it. Well, I mean, yeah, again, it's like the whole Friday the 13th thing, right? It was like those serials came out like maybe once a month or once every whenever he fucking wrote them. It was six of them. So
but it's a decent story. I found it in the collection H.P. Lovecraft Great Tales of Terror, which was $6 at my local half price books and thick. It's got a lot of stories in there. Um,
dude, dude was prolific as fuck. Especially because back then you could write for like magazines and stuff.
yeah, and they didn't pay that much. Like that was pretty much, you had to write prolifically to pay the rent.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So I just want to give that quick thing to Lovecraft because, like, come on, like I get it, but like let's also not forget Edgar Allan Poe, who we all adore and love. Like, what, married his cousin or something like that? Like, fell in love with his cousin or something
When she was 13 years old, yes.
when she was 13. But people seem to not talk about that. So, like, stop picking and choosing who you want to come after, and just realize that all these people, not always great human beings, but their work is amazing.
I refuse to cancel everything ever written before like 1970. That's fucking insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just put H.P. Lovecraft. I'm like, well, what about Edgar Allan Poe marrying his underage cousin? And before you go, well, what number cousin? Oh, I'll tell you first.
I mean, to me, there is no like line when it comes to cousin
There's
fucking. It's
there's
cousin
no
fucking or it's not.
yeah, there's no line. If you have to ask them like what number of cousin, like you're already getting into like real murky territory that you're already in.
Yeah, if somebody comes up to you and asks you that, like, hey, is Pearl our second or third cousin? You might want to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Jesus. But yeah, I recommend the story. Pretty good. Definitely. Obviously it takes place in the 1920s, and the movie takes place in the 80s, so it's different, but
Mm,
definitely Gordon and the writers maintained the same vibe. Definitely liked this story and tried to be faithful to it.
yeah. Gordon, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, later. He did a hell of a run with H.P. Lovecraft before his passing.
No,
And he has like a spiritual successor coming out on Shutter and Suitable Flesh, directed by Joe Lynch and written by Dennis Powley.
beautiful.
Mm,
Uh, so my main source of production info for this episode is the bonus content available on the Arrow Blu-ray release of Re-Animator, including the 2007 documentary Re-Animator Resurrectus, also included on that Blu-ray, with some confirmation from Wikipedia on dates and names. So if you find similar information, that's because everybody's telling the truth. Stuart Gordon. At the time, he'd only directed a TV movie called Bleacher Bums, which was based off a play that he produced at the Organic Theater along with his wife. He was talking with some friends about how there's so many Dracula movies, and he wanted to make something more akin to Frankenstein. And a friend piped in, asking him if he'd ever read the Lovecraft story Herbert West, Re-Animator. And Gordon, being a Lovecraft fan, was surprised to learn that he had not read that story. It'd been out of print for quite a while. He made his way to the library, found the story in a collection, read it, loved it, and immediately wanted to make a play out of it. He teamed with screenwriters Dennis Powley and William Norris to turn it into a half-hour TV pilot when the stage thing didn't quite work out. They moved the action from turn of the century Arkham, which was a setting that Lovecraft used quite a lot. Uh, Arkham Asylum from the Batman franchise is referencing Lovecraft's Arkham.
yeah, see, look at that. Look at that. We want to have what being considered to be one of the greatest superheroes ever made for Lovecraft in a way.
Yeah,
That
be called like, Gotham Hospital or some innocuous shit like that. Is that what you want?
yeah. Yeah. Instead, you get the awesome sounding Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, that's where nightmares happen. Um, they moved the action to modern day Chicago, and then they were told no one's going to buy this half-hour TV show. So they keep trying to make this work, but everyone's like, no one wants that.
Yeah, you know what killed me in this part of the documentary when they were like, you won't believe who we try to sell this to. You won't believe it now. And then they showed PBS, and I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah, coming up after Sesame Street, a brutal horror extravaganza from H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was like, oh, okay. You guys tried PBS. That's a ballsy move.
Jesus. So now they went back to the rewrite, started turning it into an hour-long series with 13 episodes. Then they met Bob Greenberg, special effects artist who worked with John Carpenter, and Greenberg just straight up told Gordon there was no market for horror on TV. It was film or nothing. So he introduced Gordon to producer Brian Yuzna, and Gordon gave Yuzna what he had. Guy liked it so much he agreed to produce it as a movie. So it's really just, meet the right people. That person will introduce you to somebody who can do something about it. You collaborate, you get your product.
Yeah,
Pretty
and
much how the
honestly,
industry works.
yeah, and at that time he wasn't wrong. Like I know probably some people be like, "What? There wasn't a place for horror on TV." They didn't have streaming and stuff back then. Like now, obviously, you can like we get stuff like The Fall of the House of Usher, which was one of the best fucking shows I watched last year. Um, but back then in the 80s, no, you're getting like some kind of medical drama, a soap, a sitcom. I don't even think in the 80s they had crime procedurals yet. I don't think that was until Homicide in the 90s, I believe.
Yeah, Homicide and I think like Law and Order kind of turned that into a big profitable subgenre on TV. Uh,
Yeah, like
and not to mention, you basically had like CBS, ABC, NBC, and now PBS. So like it had to fall under that. And the FCC is not going to let something like Re-Animator make it onto the air. I mean, the most you had was like the '80s revamp of the Twilight Zone. So yeah,
yeah, and I think you had the revamp of Dark Shadows, but again, that fell under a soap. Technically, it's a horror soap, but it's a soap.
I guess HBO was around too, and they had Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, yeah, they had Tales from the Crypt. The
Yeah,
HBO, but I think they were still young enough that they could only take so many chances.
yeah,
They started to be pretty safe.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, you just like it was getting there in the 80s, but like it wasn't no, there was no actual profitability in making a horror show guaranteed success for TV back then.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and I'm kind of glad because if this was a TV show, and what would we have lost? Like, how tame would this have been? And would it be even remembered at all? Would it be this like, cheap, kind of boring zombie show that, lasted half a season back in the '80s?
Yeah, and became like this obscure piece of, you know, art that we never know about, except in like this book I have that's like Are You Alone in the House and talks about like TV movies from the 70s and 80s. Maybe feature in that, but then still be a bitch to find.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad things worked out the way they did. Jeffrey Combs ended up being cast as Herbert West, and Combs had never read Lovecraft before his casting. Was a bit taken aback by the script. He was like, "Whoa, this is heavy. There's a lot happening here." But he needed the work, and he kind of assumed this would come and go. Didn't think it was really gonna take off. Thought, I'll be in, I'll do this, and then I'll go do a movie I really want to do. But it ended up being his most iconic and recognizable role. He was very grateful for the success and has never really strayed out of horror all that much.
No, I think other than Star Trek, like he's a big time Star Trek player.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's pretty much become this helped him become a horror icon. And I gotta give him credit for not turning his back on it. Like, yeah, he had the attitude of like, it's probably gonna be this quick little thing I do that gets me to where I really want to be. And he wasn't wrong for having that mindset back in the 80s when you're a young, starving actor. Like, yeah, you're going to take, something that may not be in your head that great to try to get you to where you want to be.
Well, all these guys, Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, Bruce Abbott, they all came from the stage. And, going from the stage to a, grisly body horror splatterfest is not exactly considered a, moving up. It's
No.
it
But
sometimes works out, but especially in the '80s, there were a lot of these.
yeah, it was 50-50 if it would work out. But I give them credit. One, all of them are really good in this. They don't try to like give half-ass performances. Jeffrey Combs is fucking lights out in this goddamn. We'll talk more about that as we get into that stuff. But I mean, all of them are giving it their all. They're not, there's no ego of like, let me give a shitty performance because this is beneath me. And all of them, especially Crampton and Combs, never turned their back on horror. They became horror icons. They both do the conventions. They're very grateful for their fans. I didn't, I didn't get to get your autograph or anything, but the first time I went to CryptCon in Seattle, he was there, and if he didn't have a fan, so he just played his guitar, waiting for someone to come to the table.
That's fantastic. Uh, I know Gordon followed Re-Animator with From Beyond, another Lovecraft, which I think is just as good, if not a little better at times. That
From
movie
Beyond's really
freaked me
good.
out. The idea of like a world living in between our world, and like you just have to push a little bit, and you're right there into this freak show of life. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I always laugh when you text me like, "Hey, I finally understand your thing for Barbara Crampton." And I'm like, "It took you that long?"
It took From Beyond for me to be like, Jesus. Yeah. And if you've seen From Beyond, you know what scene I'm talking about.
Everyone does. All you gotta do is Google it.
And
Actually,
I know she's like, naked and all that in Reanimator, but she's also being assaulted by a severed head. It's hard to focus on tits when that's happening. I don't think I'm alone in that.
fair enough. Um, no, yeah, they have a really good working relationship too, in that they did that together. They did the original Castle Freak together, with Full Moon, where they actually played a married couple. Um, and then I watched it. It was this recent film that came out, Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. Combs wasn't originally considered for that role because the guy who did it, that plays the Onyx character, thought there's no way he's going to say yes to this little independent film. But he had already cast Barbara Crampton, and she was one of those like, he will, just call him. I promise you here. And she wrote, she's like, I'll call him for you. I got you. And she called him, and then Hannah goes like, and he was like, tell me about your movie. And he told me, he goes, yeah, I'll do it. That sounds fun.
That's fantastic. I love that. Uh, I really like Jeffrey Combs in Would You Rather, which I didn't think I'd like that much, but I really enjoyed that. He has the most obnoxious character name ever in Shepard Lambrick.
Oh my God. I haven't seen that movie yet, but I've heard a lot of people say it's really good.
He's a billionaire who hires a bunch of desperate people to play games for his amusement. And yeah, he's exactly as smarmy as you'd expect.
I I always just love Jeffrey Combs. Like that dude commits like every role he does. I would love to, that sounds like a fun role for him to play.
It is. He's just like, it's do this horrible thing or do this horrible thing while I watch and smile and laugh and have some, cognac. It's like, yeah, it's great. It's got a great cast of random people, fucking June Squibb, Sasha Grey, one of the guys from Trailer Park Boys. It's a weird cast.
Jesus, isn't Brittany Snow like one of the main characters?
Yeah, she's there to like get enough money. If you win the game, you get like $100 million or some shit, and she's there to save her brother who needs an operation.
She's okay.
Yeah, I'm really surprised you haven't seen that. That's so up your alley.
No, I've been meaning to, and then it eluded me, and then I think I told you I've been getting into like James H. Nice's kill counts on YouTube, the
Oh yeah.
dead meat dude.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, he talked about it on one of his episodes, and he was hyping it up. I'm like, I might need to check this out finally.
It's so rare that there's a horror movie that I've seen that you have not.
I know. I always love when that happens. Certain person that won't be named, same thing happened. With her, I was watching. I blind bought The Fog, a while back.
Nice.
But speaking of which, they're doing their soul again because it's his birthday.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw. Regrettably, I own all the Carpenter I want.
I might pick up Prince of Darkness and At the Mouth of Madness. Um, but I was watching and she was like, "Oh, what are you watching?" I was like, "Oh, The Fog." She's like, "Oh, that's really good." And I was like, "The fuck?" And she's like, "Did I just see a horror film that you haven't?" I was like, "Hey, look, this don't expect this to be a regular occurrence." And I
And
really don't
it's
because
a
we don't.
great it's a great white buffalo moment where it's like, what? I have gone where he dare not tread. What is this?
It's not what I dare not try. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
I know that's what it feels like. Yeah, it's a neat feeling.
Dude, you know what's really gonna be wild? If you watch like a really fucked up film before I have, because usually I'm like there as soon as I can get my hands on it.
That's true. That's true. Let's talk about the score for a little bit. So, the score for this film was composed by Richard Band. It's been noted for its similarities, quote unquote, to Bernard Herrmann's score for Alfred Hitchcock's film Psycho. And you made it sound like I was crazy for noticing that shit. No, no, no. If anything, you're crazy for not noticing it.
Nope, you're so crazy. Don't try to turn this around.
So
Fucking
he
psychopath.
he intended to write a score that homaged Psycho, but then the movie came out and everyone was like, "What the fuck, man? You ripped off Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann. We're not stupid." And he kind of people kind of went after him for that. So they didn't see the homage; they just saw him ripping off one of the greats. Which I mean, yeah, there's homage and then there's lifting notes, which is pretty much what he did, man. I mean, Psycho is right in the middle of this score.
All right, I don't see what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. You difficult man. Yes, you do. It
I
is
mean, look,
it is
I'm
funny that he was able to get away with that though.
yeah, I'm surprised that like, well, for the sake of sounding like an ignorant asshole, when was Bernard Herrmann still alive when this movie came out?
No, he passed in the mid 70s.
I guarantee you that's probably why they got away with it. Hitchcock was long gone. Bernard Herrmann was long gone. The people who would have given a shit are long gone.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. That sucks.
Yeah, not to like go there with it, but I'm just saying that's probably how you got away with it. Like, had they still been alive, oh, I'm sure we'd be having a very hard time finding this film. Or there'd be a really goofy score.
Yeah, I mean it's a good score. I loved Psycho, but it works for Re-Animator too, I guess.
Look, Psycho needs to stop ripping off Re-Animator score, okay?
Uh,
Isn't that how that shit works? Internet.
uh, so Re-Animator did pretty good at the box office, grossing 2 million on a budget of about 900,000 to $1 million, depending on sources. It's since become a cult favorite, spawned two sequels, and that's pretty good for a film that was almost a play
I know, right?
or a
Isn't
TV
that
show or a
I love
PBS
seeing
original on right after Reading Rainbow.
dear God. Uh and Arthur. I don't know what else the fuck was airing at that time. Um
I don't know. I know that Reanimator would have been possible with the help of viewers like you.
damn it. Ah, but I love looking at the box office to like these films from like the 80s and 70s and being like, God, what a time to be alive when that was a huge hit. And especially after the year we had in 2023 and them kind of getting like a wake up call to ballooning budgets.
Yeah. This was all practical effects. This was, shot in like 16 days, which is amazing. So it was, conservative. They had a budget, they used it, they made their movie, they released it. That was it. There wasn't, giant craft services table. There wasn't a giant, limo and trailer for Jeffrey Combs. Like that's where the fucking budget goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I say like, I'm just saying guys, I'm calling it. My prediction's gonna be right. The fact that they're about to do Fast 11 for $200 million or less, and with the Vin Diesel allegations, what do you think that means? We're about to get a Domless fucking sequel is what we're about to get, folks.
We're going back to LA, street racing, finally. Yay.
Yeah, without Dom, because I guarantee you he's a fucking reason for that goddamn budget.
Well, diesel has always been more expensive than unleaded gasoline.
Yeah. Also, apparently, Diesel likes to stay hard when it's not wanted.
Oh, that's frightening. Uh,
Look
Reanimator.
up the allegation to get that joke.
Yeah, Vin Diesel's facing some shit right now. But if it's true, he did it to himself, and fuck him. If it's not true, sorry, Vin, you're still not a great actor. Reanimator has an
And also,
IMDb.
still fuck you because I'm never getting Riddick 4 and I hate you. I hate you so goddamn much.
That's true. That's the biggest casualty of all this. Regardless of whether or not this ends up, being, he did it or he didn't do it. There's no way Riddick 4 happens.
The one sequel I wanted. The one sequel I wanted.
I mean, would it have been any different than Pitch Black and Riddick? They're the same movie.
Go fuck yourself. They're good movies. You don't get
I
it.
didn't say they were bad movies. I said they were the same movie.
I don't care. They're still good movies.
Well, just watch them again and just imagine there's a 4 in front of Riddick this time.
No, I will not, because there is no four. There, then I'm going to try to put it into my Blu-ray player, and it's not going to happen. So no four.
Would you accept a Riddick with a different actor? Maybe Jason Statham. Ronald B. Riddick, his brother. Yeah. Ronnie Riddick, here to
No,
avenge
let's no.
old Dick Riddick.
Let's just keep Jason Statham with a potential Beekeeper franchise. I'm good with that.
No, man. Yeah, okay. Um, so Re-Animator has an IMDb score of 7.2, Rotten Tomatoes score of 94%, audience score of 82%. That was way fucking higher than I expected.
Jesus, critics liked it more than audiences. What the
Oh,
fuck?
yeah, by a good 12%. Critics' consensus reads perfectly mixing humor and horror. The only thing more effective than Re-Animator's gory scares are its dry deadpan jokes. Huh.
Agreed. There's some great fucking line delivery with these jokes.
Yeah. Good for them for being, a little compromising finally. Uh the first sequel was 1990's Bride of Re-Animator, where West and Dan attempt to build a brand new woman from scratch. Largely ignores the ending of the first film, just kind of does its own thing. A lot of vagina from Austin Powers shows up. It's an interesting sequel.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it's fun. It was directed by Yuzna, who we mentioned produced this one, and
Is it
he
Yuzna? My apologies for saying Yuzna.
God damn it. Yeah, Yuzna. Um, he produced a lot of, especially in the 80s, a lot of horror films, and he went on to direct a lot in like late 80s, early 90s. He did everyone's favorite horror film from the 90s, and I'll give you a hint. It involves the shunting. Uh,
You know who I blame? Society.
yeah, there you go. You get it. I showed you that movie. I love that. Look, that's a movie that like if anyone asks me like what's the shunting, I'm like, I cannot possibly tell you what it is. You have to watch the movie. I cannot describe it. You have to watch it and find out. Like there's no describing that fucking
You you
sequence.
gotta you gotta go shunt yourself. No one can shunt you.
Yeah, yeah. But Brian Usna directed this and the subsequent sequel. Um and hey, look, I like a lot of his films that he does. I think he's a very underrated director in the genre that needs to get, I believe should be talked about more for Society alone, which is a great fucking film if you haven't seen it. Um but and if you haven't and you're interested in watching Society, just be wary for the shunting. I cannot stress that part enough. Um
It's a weird, like, high school Beverly Hills drama until the shunting starts, and then you're in for some fucked up, wild, what in the hell am I watching shit. So,
oh yeah.
hold on.
It's amazing. But I think he does really good with this. I believe he works with Screaming Mad George in this, who he also worked with in Society. um and it shows Screaming Mad George makes like he likes his goopy gooey special effects. Um and yeah, to me, look, yes, I'm with you. It largely ignores the ending to the first film, but it's a fun movie. It's carrying over that Frankenstein theme of the first one, this time with the bride. And there it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It does suck that Barbara Crampton wasn't able to come back. I looked it up. Apparently she was on a soap at that time.
Ah,
And her agent was the one that was like, look, don't even cameo. That's beneath you. Like, and she was young and listen, and she has said on numerous occasions how she wishes she would have at least been like, no, fuck you, I want to do at least a cameo, but
yeah.
it is what it is. Um I like this one. It's a lot of fun. It's fun. Not as fun for me as Re-Animator, but I have no issues doing like a back to back of these
Yeah.
two.
I can see us doing Bride of Re-Animator as its own episode someday, for sure. It's a solid sequel. It has, like, it feels very much like the first movie. I assumed it was Stuart Gordon. Like, Usna does a great job just kind of, maintaining the vibe. Uh, and we get to see uh what's his name? The Hill, like, as a bat head. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, yeah, a bat head. After again, ignore the fact that he got flung into the wall
I
after getting his head squished.
Yeah, I
He's
was
perfectly intact again.
yeah, just completely yeah, nope. Why are they in Peru as part of like a resistance? Like, yeah, there was a lot of questions with Bride of Re-Animator, but it's
And then they
entertaining
go,
enough.
yeah, and then they go back to the hospital that they ran away from to continue working there, like no questions asked.
That was the funniest part. Like, you just no one's gonna be like, hey, how about that, trail of bodies y'all left here last time? Like, none of that. Just, oh, welcome back, Herb.
Good to see you. We missed your eccentricities around here.
Yeah, ridiculous. And then there was 2003's Beyond Reanimator, which was made for Sci-Fi Channel, but an unrated cut was released on home video. And I don't see how this thing works edited for TV because it's pretty grisly. West, now in prison, continues his work with the help of a new prison doctor who believes in what he's doing until he actually starts doing it. And then the guy's like, "What? This is horrible. This is disgusting." Like, dude, you brought him. You put him here. You did this.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is on you, buddy.
yeah, this one sucks straight up.
Yeah, and it does suck that it's like Brian Usna. I think my only positive is like Brian Usna is doing a good job directing it. Like you can tell he's working within the limitations that are kind of like we're making this for the Sci-Fi Channel. Um, and Jeffrey Combs continues. I don't think he can give a bad performance. He's really good in this, though. You can tell he just slides back and throw after like a 13-year gap from Bride in this one. Um, it's and seeing Elsa Pataki, who I was like, holy shit, Thor's wife is in this movie. Um, that was cool, and that goddamn, that is a beautiful family. That is genetic race completely won in that family
Well,
between.
I don't know if I'd say that.
What are you trying to say about Elsa Pataki?
Well, more I'm referencing Chris Hemsworth's possible Alzheimer's situation, but so
I
genetic
wasn't
lottery,
talking.
I would say not
I
quite.
wasn't talking about that. And he's right now, he's just predisposed. He has not been diagnosed with it, so you stop it.
I'm not, I don't want him to have Alzheimer's. I'm just
I don't
saying
want
that
it either.
it's going to hold him back in the genetic race.
Fair enough. But I'm talking about beauty wise, dear God.
Fair enough.
Um, because yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to enjoy at least this part of the movie, but they completely waste her fucking character. Um,
Well, you get
at
to see
that
her
moment.
zombified version bite off a man's dick and then a rat play with it for a while.
Yeah, that was weird. You see that, and then you get a lot of side boob, like in that one scene when they give like the sex scene, and I'm like, I was like, that's a lot of side boob. Are we gonna see more? Is it just side boob? I was like, okay, just that.
Well, that one hot Spanish nurse gets like her clothes ripped off, and then that weird guy like bites her tits off.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, and not saying there wasn't like obviously we'll talk about like sexual violence or humor within like the first two films, but this one just felt like it went places. I'm like, I don't think we ever really actually wanted to go there. I didn't want to see someone's dick get bit off. I didn't want to see a dude bite a woman's like tit. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's not a. I mean, the poster alone looks like it was. It looks like the high school production of Re-Animator. Like it'd be hanging up in the cafeteria. You know, don't miss it this Friday by the drama department. Like that's how much effort went into that poster.
Yeah, it's not a good poster. And then like, so I got like, I finally with my new TV had to get a new sound bar because mine was like fucking up. Apparently now sound bars you have to make sure they match with your newer model TV.
Oh my God.
Awesome. Yeah, we're at that point now. It sounds awesome. I got done like configuring it and stuff to make it sound good, right? I had to turn the bitch down because like their fucking sound mix on this thing was like making it do that, and I'm like, the fuck. And I had to like turn it down. It was pissing me off. So I was already kind of pissed off at that. 'Cause I'm like, fuck you, you're messing up my soundbar.
I would love a fourth one, son of Reanimator, bring back Jeffrey Combs and have him be raising like some kid he stole from an orphanage to like experiment on, and then he like grows a heart and feels bad for the kid or something like that.
Right? Bring back Elsa Pataki for some reason. Robert Crampton, just bring in all the females.
Bring back everyone who died horrible deaths and act like they've been here the whole time because continuity doesn't seem to matter here.
It doesn't. It does not one bit. And I love how he always has like a doctor that like always falls for like the super hot woman. Like Kane, he has power cramps in the first one. I think it's Kathleen Kenmont and Bride. And then this doctor Elsa Pataki. I'm like, can we like stop with the doctor falling for the super hot blonde?
And then Herbert West is always to the side, like, why aren't you focusing on the work? Like,
Yeah,
why
I
do you
love it.
think, Herb?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, her. Look at Miss Pataki right there. That's why.
No amount of green liquid you make can compete with that.
Yeah, I was like, trust me. Ask Chris Hemsworth. They have 3 children. Nothing was competing with that.
Apparently, the only thing hotter than Elsa Pataki, according to Vin Diesel, is Michelle Rodriguez. So I'll never understand that decision.
I don't understand that decision. O'Reilly cut her hair in that one movie. I think it was in Furious 7. They like cut her hair, and I'm like, ooh, that's not a good haircut.
Or how rude that was to just be like, hey, woman I've been living with and have fathered a child with, my ex is alive, so we're done, and you're going to be cool with that. And she's like, yeah, totally get it. No sweat, Tom. See you.
Totally get it. And then the next movie, they kill her. I was like, the fuck?
And then Letty's like, oh, a kid from another relationship? No problem. Totally my son. No worries.
You
There's never
know,
any actual confrontation among people in the Fast and Furious franchise.
no, you know what would be, it'd be cool
What?
if Tyler Rake, who Chris Hemsworth's character in the Extraction films, which if you haven't watched those, again, go watch those on Netflix. They deserve better. Um, what if like Chris Hemsworth's like super annoyed with how they treat her character? He's just watching these films like that's my fucking wife, you assholes. So he dons the Tyler Rake persona and goes Extraction on like the Fast and Furious crew.
Jesus. That'd be awesome. Anything that just kills this franchise, frankly.
Vin Diesel's allegations.
Ah, there you go. You played yourself, Vin. Well done. Uh, let's talk about Re-Animator. Let's talk about some categories. We've got best scene, best performance, best music moment, and best line. Where do you want to start?
Let's go lines because there's some solid humorous lines I'd like to talk about.
Okay. Uh, I there's one bit. West likes to pontificate quite a bit,
Yes,
and
he does.
I guess there's this moment when he is talking to Dan, and he says, "Dan, we can bring him back to life." But the way he says it, he's like, "Dan, we can bring him back to life." Like he's almost whining. He's like, "Dan, oh, come on, help me
He,
out. Come on, man. I thought we were friends."
yeah, he
That,
really needs Dan.
that just made me laugh. Like, yeah, why does he need Dan? Like he through both first two movies, he needs Dan. No one else will do.
I
What
think
does
Dan.
Dan bring to the table exactly here besides helping him lift bodies?
I think it's because Dan puts up with him.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, as soon as my new roommate like murders my cat and throws him in the freezer, that's the end of the relationship.
Yeah, look, I will always love my dog and my cat more than like any human companion I probably have. So if something happens to them, you're out of my house.
Yeah, that's not negotiable. And the fact that Dan's like, well, I mean, I can always get another cat. Can't necessarily get another roommate.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, I'm the type that like you should have seen me when I woke up to my dog falling off the bed. I was out of that bed so quick, like, oh shit. Watch what happens when someone messes with my dog. If they even get that far. He's a big boy. Mine, because look, with that, like you were saying, Jeffrey Combs has some awesome fucking like zingers he says to people. Like he has so many great moments that make you laugh. One of my favorites is actually a great segue to my comment with the cat. Um, after Dan finds the cat dead, and he goes, I was pushing your bodies around, as you well know, and what would a note say? Dan, cat dead, details later. I I died laughing with the cat dead, details later.
Yeah, that was a good one. I love that. Dan and Megan did not handle that the way normal people would handle that.
No, no, they did not. I'd be like, that's the dead cat.
Ah, poor cat. Um, I have another one from West when he walks in on Hill about to uh, enter Megan, if you will. And he goes, I must say, Dr. Hill, I'm very disappointed in you. You steal the secret of life and death, and here you are trysting with a bubble-headed co-ed. You're not even a second-rate scientist. from the get-go, he hates Hill with a weird personal passion.
Oh yeah, dude, when he launches into him when they first meet about his whole brain thing, oh my God.
Yeah, I guess what Hill ripped off West's former teacher, and West took that very personally.
Oh, very, very personally. You don't fuck with West apparently on science.
Nope. Or he will reanimate your ass and turn you into a weird mind slave.
Yes. I have actually along with I have a line from Hill that I'll get to in a minute, but this goes great with that scene. And it's actually further in that when like Hill I forget what Hill says to him, but then Russ responds, but he's going to believe a talking head. Get a job at a sideshow.
I always get creeped out whenever, like, right during the sex scene where Hill's like, "Yes, more passion," as he goes in for it. I'm like, "Oh my God, they
Yeah,
had,
dude, the
they
part
had to perform this. These are people."
yeah. Oh, the part where they have the hands touching her boobs and his head's just staring with glee.
Yeah. And who's ripping her clothes off, by the way? Her father. Oh my God. Yeah, that's all I got for lines. You got any more?
I do. So in our line, I really got a good line. This one comes from Hill. It's when him and Wes have that tiff about the 12 minutes of brain activity once you die. And they get in touch about it. Then during the class, he's doing it. You know, Wes is like breaking the pencils to piss him off. And I love Hill's little line when he's like, the brain can last an additional 6 to 12 minutes. Then he looks up at West, 6 to 12 minutes.
I love the little Mr. West. I suggest you get a pen. Beef on sight, these two, man.
Oh yeah, it's so petty just to sit there and break pencils constantly. I'm like, how many pencils did he bring with him to do this?
Enough. Oh, it's a good one.
Oh yeah, that yeah. There's a lot of good stuff. This it's a little bit of scene and dialogue, but I always get a good laugh when we get first introduced to Crampton's Megan character, and you get that no, no, no when he's messing with her, and it just hard cuts to a sex scene, and it goes from no, no, no to yes, yes, yes. Like it's an easy joke, but it's a funny one.
I love when they open the door to West and Dan's naked and Dan just like, oh, and like puts pants on. It's like, don't I know you? He's like, yes, we met earlier. I'm here about the room. He just has no, he doesn't care about anything.
Yeah, he doesn't care that he definitely just walked in on them doing it, or at least finishing up.
Um, Music. So I don't have really for music. I just have the opening score. As much as I lambast it for being similar to Psycho, it is a good mood setter. It's eerie. It's creepy. It's mysterious. You don't really know what you're in for. It's a good mood setter.
Yeah, I agree. I had the opening sequence, and it also had like specific moments, like when the body reanimates as the Dean walks in. So I like how as he's getting ready to walk in, it kind of gets like tense. The music actually kind of takes on a more tense approach. But then the moment the body breaks through the door, the music becomes a lot more playful and joyful, and like embraces now the kookiness of what's happening on screen. And I like that the score would do that. It could sit there and 1 minute be real tense and be like, "Oh shit, what's about to happen?" And then say, "And now we're embracing the chaos," and just have fun with it.
Yeah, it's bouncy. It's all encompassing. It's a good solid score built on Bernard Herrmann's work. But okay.
Or Bernard Herrmann built on this work. We don't have
Yeah. Bernard Herrmann
confirmation.
came back from the dead in 1985, wrote this music, then time traveled to 1960, gave it to himself, and said, "People are going to love this. Trust me."
Yep,
That's,
sounds right to
that's
me.
what happened. Yep.
Yep.
Any other music moments you want to shout, or should we move to performance?
I say move to performance. I don't have a whole lot of music myself.
Okay.
Minus the opening title, which is just a fun sequence.
I agree. Performance. Um, okay. So if we had to pick somebody, it's Combs, right?
Oh, absolutely, it's calm. So the dude is just I mean, this is like one of his early, if not, I think one of his first film roles he ever had.
Hmm.
And he commands the screen immediately. Like he is so good in this movie, and you can tell he's having a great time.
We need to believe his commitment, or this whole film doesn't work. And yeah, we got to believe that this is a guy who will go to any lengths to perform nightmarish shit that most scientists won't even think about. But he's all in. And if he isn't all in, we don't get we don't become all in.
Yeah, I mean to the point that like you talked about, like if when the cat said his reaction's like, "Hey, it's for science, Dan." Okay, okay, like no care. He's oblivious to so much shit. Doesn't care because it's like, no, I gotta do this. I'm all in on tapping into something that I don't quite understand.
I think he said it best in Bride, where he said something along the lines of like, God has nothing to do with this. Like this is me. Like it's love the ego. Um, I think for me, second place, if I had to go with anybody, is David Gale as Hill.
Yeah, I had that too. It's like he is so good as just this slimy piece of shit professor.
Yeah. Who turns into a just I guess just a monstrous little head. Who's just
Yeah.
I love his, like the way he's talking with the head, like he feels, broken. And he's just like it's almost like it completely removed his inhibitions and now he's gonna do all the evil shit he's always wanted to do.
Oh yeah, and I love that you kind of get hints of that when you see that, like once you kind of catches on to uh Kane and Megan's relationship, he immediately kicks him out of the school. And he's like already, like you can tell this is a guy that is not a good professor. He has ulterior motives, and once he loses that, he just goes all in. I know in the bonus features they talked really highly about working with him because they said doing that stuff was really grueling on him
Mm.
because he hit it was his head but his body below the fucking thing. And they
Yeah.
said he was there for a long time. He was uncomfortable. You could tell he was not having a great time doing it, but they said he was a fucking trooper. He never complained. He continued to always give it his all performance and like just a very professional class act. Regardless how uncomfortable he was in all this shit they had him do.
And he did come back for part two. So
Yeah, yeah.
must not have
Um,
been too horrible a time.
no, and unfortunately, an actor that's no longer with us, he passed away years ago.
Yeah. But yeah, he plays a great there's a certain like assholery of the 80s that was different. It was your principals, it was your deans, it was your head scientists. They had you know, this smarm and this like upper crust bullshit that villains outside the 80s didn't really have, but it was very prevalent in the 80s. I miss
It was
that.
almost Yeah, it's almost like the youth's reaction to how they felt about like authority figures and that fear of like these are people that have power to really fuck your life
Yeah.
up if they just don't like you or in this case he wants to fuck Megan. That kind of idea of like these people with power that can do terrifying things.
Yeah, I think that's on the money. Yeah, good call. Uh
Pay attention.
uh any other performances you'd like to shout out? I mean, Barbara Crampton and Bruce Abbott are both great in
Well, I'll
this.
say I was gonna say Barbara Crampton and Bruce Abbott. Obviously, for a lot of people, as you know, Crampton has become a horror icon at this point, and she does really good. I do think she stands out from most of your '80s actresses in this genre. I think she is a great audience cipher, and what she had to endure with like the scene of being strapped naked to the gurney. I know she talked about it on the doc. Luckily she didn't have anything bad to say. And she even said she goes there, they made it a close set. They made sure I was okay. They didn't exploit me. They really made sure I was, safe during those scenes. And luckily because of that she, did more stuff with Stuart Gordon, did more stuff with Jeffrey Combs. So like, you know, she was a trooper for this movie, and we got what we have now with her in it. And yeah, Bruce Abbott does a really good job as like kind of the moral high ground or the more center, I should say, of this film that has that eventually just kind of goes all in.
I Moral high ground might be giving him a little too much credit. I mean, he's doing some twisted shit in this movie. I mean, he reanimates Megan's dad and doesn't tell her. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, among other things. Um, I want to shout out that security guard who takes the world's longest coffee breaks and just ignores anything that's not remotely his department.
Yeah. And straight up reads a fucking porno mag on job.
I love that guy. I mean, Hill walks in, like Hill's body walks in with a fake head, and the guy just like looks up and looks back down at his magazine like nothing out of the ordinary is happening here.
He is goals. I want to be at his level where I can just do that and never get fired for anything. Just
Yeah. You know what that
all
is?
right.
Union. Ah, yeah, that had me laughing just randomly. He'd be like, while like laying back, his legs on the desk, reading a porno mag, he'd look at his watch and be like, "Oh, time for my break."
Yeah. And it'd be gone for the longest time. I'm like, dude, this is the longest break. I think he just went home.
Uh, okay. Scene. Some great moments in this movie. Some great weird moments. Let's just go ahead and get this one out of the way, which I'm pretty sure is on both our lists. The hyper violent sexual act of a severed head committing.
Giving head.
Yep, giving head on head action.
Yeah, head on head.
Whew. How do you pitch that shit to a major studio and say like, no, it's not negotiable, it's in the movie?
All I walk.
That's you gotta be for a scene like this. You can't be like, I was thinking we could maybe throw this in. No, this has to be your I'm like this is here. I'm not making the movie moment.
Dude, I don't know. Because, I mean, luckily they don't do anything. Like, I'm sure the porno version of this film that exists somewhere out there goes all the way.
I
Um,
Oh boy.
uh, but yeah, what a wow. Like, it was it's a definition of like, I haven't seen that before. Never seen that in film. And don't get me wrong, it's a really funny joke if you think about it. It's like, a head attempting to give head. But like it's to me where the dichotomy of like horror comedy is at its like absolute finest because a part of you wants to laugh at the joke on display. The other part of you is like, oh, but this is horrifying because this doesn't it's kind of rapey.
It's
And
reverse necrophilia, which is a sentence I didn't think was that I'd ever say.
yeah, yeah, and I've seen Necromantic, so yeah.
In in Soviet Russia, corpse fuck you. I couldn't help myself.
God damn it. But yeah, this is like to me the centerpiece of like the of the film was like much like I keep when I mentioned Brian Usna and society and like the shunting. This is one of those scenes where it's like, look, I'm not even going to tell you. I'm not going to describe the scene. You just have to see it with your own eyes.
Pretty much. Yeah. I just love picturing the pitch meeting. It's like, so we have this movie. It's kind of like Frankenstein. It's based on H.P. Lovecraft. He's a scientist who reanimates dead bodies, and things don't always go as planned. And there's a scene where a severed head eats out a woman, and then there's a bunch of stuff. It's like, whoa, 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 go back to that. What was that?
It's a Frankenstein movie? No, fast forward a little bit.
Lovecraft? Got to bury the lead on that one.
Well,
Uh,
imagine being like Barbara Crampton, you're reading the script, or they're having to pitch you on this scene.
Imagine being like David Gale hearing about that. Like, I do what? My character does what to this young lady?
Yeah. So check it out, Gail. Check it out here, G Dog. We're gonna take your head and put it right between her legs. And you have to act like you enjoy this, okay? It's your job. You're an actor. All right. And she just
I wonder if like did they have to cut something even worse so that they would be allowed to do this?
Dude, I don't know. What I don't know, like what, a severed head eating her ass or this?
I was thinking like a I don't know if I want to say that on the air of a podcast that represents me as a person. I don't know if I want to say that. Probably not a good idea.
I don't know. I don't think there's any history of something worse being in this film, but yeah, I don't know how they got away with this. I mean, I like I said, I guess it probably hopes that nothing actually happens. It's just like, oh dear God, it's already. It's literally like you're just sitting there going, am I about to see what I think I'm about to see? Is this really about to happen? Oh, thank God, it's not. Okay.
I mean, if Herbert
Woo!
West, who doesn't care about people, took his time and decided to get a coffee first, then yeah, it would have happened.
Probably would have been like me, like, "Hey, you know what? I know we need to do this, but I am parched. Let's stop at the gas station first. We'll get there when we get there."
He stops to get a coffee, runs into that security guard, just sitting back, taking his break.
Here's screaming and stuff. And he's like, "You don't solve that? Not really. It's a really good article in here."
Oh my God. So yeah, that scene, that's pretty much the centerpiece of the movie, that scene. I like the West's first human subject who like jerks upright and does that otherworldly shriek.
Yeah, yeah. It's right when the dean's also coming up to be like, "What the hell's going on here?"
Yeah.
And yeah, that was I had that one too. Um, when he convinces Kane to go back and like let's reanimate this guy, and then they do it and they can't fucking calm the damn thing down. They're like, it becomes almost like slapstick watching these two guys try to take this thing down because they picked like the biggest dude they could find in the room.
Yeah, it has like an Abbott and Costello vibe to it. You know, it's yeah, it's wacky. It's also horrifying because like it makes you wonder, what did that guy see? Like what has to in that bit between death and reanimation, what happens to turn a human being into something like that?
Yeah, like what have you seen for like you to act like that when you come back? Or again, I know the later sequels talk about like the soul and stuff, but just this movie, it's like, oh shit, what they say again though. That's kind of what's fun about this one. It doesn't do like doesn't fully go into it like a lot of other Lovecraft adaptations have,
Mhm.
but there's that tinge of cosmic. It's there. It's there. It's there. It's a little bit of it, a little sprinkled over there. Like, the
I
fuck did
like
they
to
see?
I like since we never really learn what the reagent is or where it came from, I like to think that like West found like some fissure in space-time and this was like Cthulhu's blood or something.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It would explain why that tentacle thing comes out at the end. That's never explained.
Yeah, or the dude who yeah, what the fuck was that? Or that guy in the third one who like shoots it up and his guts explode.
Yeah, that was actually one of the better parts of that movie. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. It all comes back, in Lovecraft it always comes back to the old ones. So
Yeah.
something that they're involved somehow.
Somehow, I think that tentacle has something to do with it that you see towards the end.
Oh
They
yeah.
got pissed and they're like, what are you doing, West?
Yeah.
We
You
doing Herb?
you playing God? You playing me? Asshole. I would love if Cthulhu talked like Tony Soprano.
You think you just waltz in on my territory?
I do this. I do this. You do you. How about that, huh? It just complete. That would be this would be the greatest movie of all time if Cthulhu showed up at the end like a fucking mob boss and put him in his place.
Time to pay the piper here, Herb.
Ah, all right.
Oh,
Your turn.
um, I put the scene with him and Wes and Kane fight the reanimated cat. Because and Trevor Combs actually talks about Wonderfully in the Dock, where it's a perfect scene of like sound effects and acting. Because you never actually see the damn cat. You just see these two idiots trying to kill this reanimated cat in the basement. And in a way, thus really to me truly begins their relationship when they become a little bit of a situationship, as the kids call it.
Yeah, apparently this film's got quite uh, a gay fandom who see them as kind of a couple.
Hey, honestly, watching this one in Bride, it makes sense.
I'd believe it if Dan wasn't fucking every hot blonde he found.
But see, Dan's denying it. Then Dan's denying what Herb. once. I'm gonna keep calling him Herb because I just like it better than Herbert. He's tonight.
Herbert West is a reanimator. Herb West is like a South Dakota weatherman.
Herb Russ sells weed in his backyard. Um, Herbert is putting it all on the line, making it very known he wants Dan that way, and Dan just keeps running off to those hot blonde women. I get it. I see it.
I I think it's a stretch. I
I
think
don't know if it's a
I think
stretch at
Herbert
all
West is at most asexual.
until he saw Dan Dean, whatever the fuck his name is.
It's not Dean Cain. That's a different guy. Dean Cain was a shitty Superman and the Ripley's host.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Dan, then. Yeah, Dan.
I have almost a few times called him Dean Cain as well.
Yeah, it's been bugging me this whole time. I'm like, God damn it. Um, yeah, until you saw Dan, especially in Bride with Dan's long hair and getting shirtless. Come on. Herbert had some thoughts. Herbie was thinking some things.
Well, until Herbie or until Dan turned state's evidence on him.
Yeah, that's true. That's when they broke up. Because also think about it, look how insanely jealous he gets anytime Dan gets with his hot blonde chicks.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Herbie, yeah, Herbie gets real mad about it.
That's true. Hmm. Well, you know what? We'll have to explore that at some point. Um, I love the scene where West kills Hill because it's so obviously going to happen to everybody but Hill. Uh, Hill walks in like to steal his work, is like looking at it under the microscope for so long that West has enough time to go grab a shovel and hit Hill and fucking chop his head off with it, which is a great effect, by the way. That the decapitation scene in that moment is like shit. Well
Yeah.
done.
Oh, dude, all the effects in this film are fantastic.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it. And then West immediately injects the head with the serum, and Hill's like, ah, what did you do?
Oh yeah, that was some one time I remember thinking like, West, dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you need to know when to not do this. Like, you got rid of your competition, the guy that was bugging you. Why would you inject him with this shit?
I guess technically it's not murder.
That's probably what he thought. It's probably what he thought.
It's only
Um,
murder if there's a body, and the body can talk, so it's not dead.
it's not dead. Body is making weird sentences. I do like the scene when uh Herbert and Hill first meet each other when they're introduced. We mentioned it earlier, and they're just trading barbs back and forth at each other, especially because Russ just straight up was like, "Yeah, you stole this guy. I respect work. You're a hack." Basically, he says that more or less. Um,
Yeah,
and just the
Hill's just like,
yeah,
well, good to meet you too, West.
yeah. Oh, fuck you too. Um, it's such a great scene of like just these two guys just trading barb and the just the tension between them immediately. I'm like, okay, here we go. These two don't like each other.
Yeah, gotta love the balls on Herbert West. Just straight up say to this like renowned scientist, like, you're a hack and you ripped off my mentor, and I'm telling you that in front of the dean. Beautiful. Um, the last scene I have is the end where Hill is doing his work and West thinks he's got him beat, and all of the fucking bodies in the morgue rise at once. That
I had that
legitimately
too.
scared me. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I had that too. It's just so awesome the way they just show all the bodies rise up, and you're like, oh fuck, Hill had a plan.
How did he get those guys to sit there quietly? That's the one thing West has been unable to do is make these guys relax. They immediately go like every time he injects them with that shit. But these guys were like, "Oh, surprise party? No, we got it. We got it."
Well, see, okay, so going back to the game metaphor, okay, it's because of Wes's desire for Dan. So that's a metaphor for the desire. It's like his penis rising up rock hard for Dan. Whereas Hill doesn't feel that way, so it stayed nice and flaccid until it was necessary to defeat West.
Okay, interesting. Nope, I don't buy it.
I'm sticking with it.
Here's something I never thought about. vampires and zombies and whatnot, they have no actual blood flow, right? Because they're dead.
Yeah.
They can't get boners.
Well, vampires technically drink blood, so I wonder if the blood could, you could argue that the blood goes to the wiener.
I mean, in the blood going to their stomach because they're drinking it.
I don't know, and their dicks apparently.
I, whatever, fine.
I've always assumed vampires still have some kind of blood flowing through them for them to do their thing. Zombies, though, no. I mean, realistically, zombies aren't shouldn't be a thing because they're decomposing. They won't get that far.
According to Blade, vampires have to drink blood because their own blood can't sustain them because it's not working. Therefore, no blood flow. Therefore, no boner.
Oh, so we're basing it off a Marvel comic instead of actual vampire lore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do vampires exist and I'm not aware of it?
Hey,
Want to go interview one right now? We can ask him.
yeah, we'll do an interview with a vampire. How's that sound? Okay.
I didn't even realize I'd set that up.
You did. You set up. I had to take it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That was fantastic. Any other scenes you want to shout before we move on?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Stand by. Stand by. Oh, I do like the film's cold open quite a bit. Like just setting the tone before the credits roll of like, the fuck am I about to watch when they go in there and you walk into that reanimated fucking corpse. Like very first shot, I was like, then that's how you start your movie. That's how you tell the audience, are you ready for this?
I
Because
gave
you're
you.
really not.
I love how many hospitals Herbert West is allowed to bounce around in the world before somebody calls somebody else and says, "Hey, watch out for this guy. He's doing really weird shit to the bodies."
Oh, in the case of the one we get here, they let him come back after he goes to help us with a civil war. They're like, yeah, you can come back. It's fine. Forgive and forget, right? Bury the hatchet.
It's like participating in the revolution and like being a war medic allowed him to like fill out a punch card of good deeds, and then he gave that to Miskatonic, and they're like, "Well, you filled out the card, so you know, yeah, you can have your job back." Gave him a new
Lucky
card.
you.
He didn't punch anymore.
Lucky you. You just hit your 10th punch. That means you get to come back.
Can you imagine if life worked out like that? You committed some heinous crime, but you do 10 good deeds and all is forgiven. That'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, we have a lot of like rapists and murderers so out there
Yeah.
game that system.
Yeah. You can rape as much as you want as long as help the poor a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God. Well, I think with that, let's take a look at what Letterboxd has to say on our final segment, What's in the Box.
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
Re-Animator has a 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I don't know why I expected Re-Animator to have so much more hate than it's gotten. It's pretty beloved.
I think it's because usually when you hear like a cult horror film, it's oh, okay, so horror fans love it, but general audiences probably won't love it. Um, that's why I say like this one, it to me, it's escaping cult status as far as I'm concerned, because like it's just become like to me just a beloved horror film. Like as the years have gone on, like I've met very few people that when they ask for like something a little bit more fun, and I say, hey, check out Re-Animator, they walk away going, why would you do this to me? They're usually like, that was a lot of fun. I really like that one.
Yeah. Well, not everybody on Letterboxd agrees with you.
Well, they suck.
I- All right. The diplomatic approach. I like it. Um, I have 4 horrible reviews for you and 1 positive one that just made me laugh. And we're going to start with that one. This is from Kia. I'd expect nothing less from a motherfucker named Herbert. 3.5 stars. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, I don't. I guess lesson learned, don't name your kid Herbert so you don't have shit like this happen.
I was thinking there's certain names I can't think of a certain like known character in like fiction or in real life who was stable with that name. Herbert and Dennis are the two.
Yeah, I think thanks to this and Always Sunny, I'm never calling any potential future son I have one of those names.
No, you're basically raising a psychopath.
Yeah, sure, she ain't raising a golden god.
This next one's from Milo. This movie this movie is so unworthy of blatantly stealing the score from Psycho, half a star.
You did that on purpose.
Yeah, I choose these. Everything's on purpose.
Don't know what that person's talking about. Clearly, Psychos was score from this.
Uh, this next one's from Jesse. Did not think I was signing up for a rape scene involving a decapitated head. 1 star. We often don't, do we, Jesse? No one ever reads the dailies and thinks, "Oh, this rape scene, decapitated head. Okay, well, that's my Friday." Like, usually that's sprung on you, I would hope.
The idea of like, I did not sign up for this. Yeah, no one was expecting this in the movie there, big guy.
It's not on the poster.
Yeah, and also again, like, look, let's be quite honest, but like, real, like, let's be semantic about this, if you will. It is not rape because luckily nothing happens. Herbert walks in at just the right time. So calm down a bit. But that like that's a whole thing with how I feel about people's nowadays attitude towards like comedy and film and the whole like film Twitter debate about sex and nudity and fucking films. But yeah, no one signed up for this scene. It's not actually rape. It stops well before that fucking happens. Thank God. But guys, like, calm down.
It's also a
Calm down.
movie. It's also a movie about bringing people back from the dead. It's not real. So,
Yeah. Also, trust me when I say I have seen so much more worse when it comes to rape in films. You people don't even know.
this next one's from Jess, no relation. Throw that glowing green liquid away and don't ever use it again. 1 star. Yeah, that's good advice. West should probably stop using that. It clearly doesn't fucking work.
It doesn't. You know what that green glow stuff is, by the way? I forgot to mention the production stuff. It's
But,
a day glow juice. It's glow stick juice.
oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, they said they just got thousands of glow sticks and just busted them open into the thing. So they're like, yeah, don't drink it because it's glow stick. It's not good for you.
I love and miss when people had to basically mine whatever they could find at the Dollar Tree to make their movie work.
Yeah, yeah, right. Glow sticks. They had a boom boost in sales thanks to the guys needing it for Re-Animator and its sequels.
Yeah, and Predator, you mix that stuff with KY jelly, what do you get? Predator blood.
I love that lube has been able to be profitable outside of basically porn. Like porn and actual movies, because KY is useful in so many situations that don't involve sex.
It's the miracle element, it works for every occasion. Yeah. Dry down there, KY. Making a monster movie, KY. Drop something down in the disposal, need to get your hand down there, KY.
Oh God.
Wedding ring not coming off, KY.
Yeah, that's part if you get the water-based one, as it should be, comes off really easy too when you're done using it.
No. This last one's from Spicy Lamp. It's genuinely so terrible, but also one of the best movies I've ever seen. 1 star. Some people have
Yeah,
such a complex relationship with art, man.
they really do, and it's funny because I've seen so many like just out there horror films now that if someone ever tells me like this thing is awful, it's one of the worst ones I've seen. Sometimes I can't help myself by become that guy. I'm like, well, actually, let me tell you about some shit I've watched. You ever sat through things? Sledgehammer, Spookies, even though I quite enjoy Spookies. I'm like, there's far worse out there. You're not watching. I'm like, if you think this is bad, oh boy, do I have such sights to show you?
Ever since I got LASIK, I'm no longer able to push up my glasses So I can no longer do the well, actually. So you're gonna have to do it for both of us.
I know. Well, then that means I have to wear my contacts less because when I wear them, I can't do it when my contacts are on, unless I want to stab myself in the fucking eyeball.
That's commitment, is what that is.
Yes. Well, actually, oh God.
You have to be very careful with your moment because you could probably only do that like 3 or 4 times before you have real damage. So pick your moment. Well, that's our show. That's Re-Animator. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like what we do, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Filmgazm Productions. If you want to suggest films for us to check out, you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com or send us a message through the socials at Facebook, Instagram, or X. Check out our Letterboxd accounts for daily
Stop
reviews.
saying it like that.
Not until he changes it back, goddammit.
Where's fucking Twitter was fine. Twitter was fine. It's still Twitter, goddammit.
You can search for me at Letterboxd at Connor95, and in my friends list, you can find the rest of the team. Check out our website, filmgasm.com, where I have a link to my Letterboxd if you want to read reviews. You can also find articles, trailers of upcoming films, and every episode of every era of our show. If you'd like to become a monthly donor to Filmgazm Productions, feel free to click on the link in the episode description. From there, click on support this podcast. You can choose to donate $1 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month. We appreciate it so much. All donations go right back into the show. Thanks to the entire Filmgazm team for their contributions. Thanks to Cooley Cow for our awesome theme music. And thanks to you for checking it out. Next week, we tackle a grisly, gross, freaky creature feature about a psychotic hotel owner in the bayou who feeds the people who piss him off to his giant pet crocodile. The film is Eaten Alive, Tobe Hooper's follow-up to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're going to talk Gator movies. We're going to talk Tobe Hooper. And we're going to talk this crazy, reviled movie in all the right ways. So I'm excited. I have not seen this. This was a suggestion, I think, from you. And I know this is gonna be. I love Gator movies. I've yet to be disappointed, and this I've heard is quite a fucked up movie. So I'm looking forward to talking about this one.
Yeah, I'm looking for this. You guys know my love for Tobe Hooper, and yeah, Gator films in general. So I'm looking forward to this episode. It's gonna be fun. It's Robert Englund where he got the line, where Tarantino got the line, my name is Buck and I'm here to fuck. This is the film he got it from. So put some respect for that, you film snobs out there. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and always remember that Tobe Hooper directed Poltergeist. Just always remember that. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but before he did that, he directed Eaten Alive, and he took full responsibility for whatever this is going to be. So I'm excited. Until then, don't raise the dead. It clearly doesn't work out. Take it easy. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.